So this super high-class lady with great posture and manners is actually this country's top brawler, who's way too happy to punch some scumbags. This anime is really good and different, dude, so stick with me till the end. You're gonna love it. So let's get into the video. The lady asks the prince to repeat himself, and the jerk tells Scarlet Elvendimian that he's calling off their engagement. He announces to the whole ballroom that he'll marry Theronetsa Hopkins from the Hopkins baronial family. Everyone applauds and agrees like puppets. Theronetsa says she'll be very happy by the prince's side and will nurture the great love they share. The prince says that's beautiful, unlike the woman in front of him, who has an expressionless face, the one he's been playing fiancé with for 17 years. He even says Scarlet is a stupid and boring woman, that he couldn't take it anymore. Scarlet, all polite, says their marriage was arranged between her Vandimian family and the prince's royal family. So this little jerk can't just call off the engagement like that, since the marriage was decided before they were even born. Cal von Paristan says he can because Scarlet committed crimes, like mistreating Theronetsa at the academy because Cal paid more attention to her. Thing is, Scarlet had never seen that girl until today. He and the skank next to him are just framing Scarlet to ruin her life, and the brainless fools believe it. Cal says Scarlet is a prejudiced elitist who mistreated Theronetsa for being in the common course and not the special one like her. The scoundrels say whatever nonsense they want, and Scarlet accepts the end of the marriage and agrees to be the villain of the story. So no need to hold back anymore. Scarlet asks Prince Kyle for one last request. He asks if she wants money or jewels, but then Scarlet walks towards him and clenches her fist. She wants to smash her hand right into that skank Theronetsa's face and goes for the punch. With that said, Scarlet narrates her story leading up to this tense moment. As a kid, she always liked hitting others. Her brother Leonardo talks about the time Scarlet beat up the boy from the Alexia family, but it was for good reason. To save a commoner child, Scarlet never hits anyone without a good reason behind it. She told her brother she does it for the good of the people and her world. When Leonardo arrived at the crime scene, little Scarlet was stained with the rich kid's blood and laughing like it was something amazing. Scarlet pretends she doesn't like it, and Leonardo says she needs to stop the violence and behave like a proper lady. At a certain royal family ball, Scarlet met Prince Kyle, who was rude to her right from the first meeting, calling her dumb and ordering her to work for him. From then on, Kyle always bullied Scarlet in every way possible. All that was left for the Vandimian lady was to endure the frustration and anger and move on, because her father couldn't undo a marriage arranged by the royal family. When Scarlet turned 15, she entered the Royal Academy for Nobles. Her classmates admired her a lot, saying she had a classy air about her, and she got first place in the aptitude exam. The pride of the nobles, the Ice Rose. Kyle obviously grew up to be a bigger jerk and wanted to make her his slave. By this time, she was already used to hearing the prince's nonsense. The guy is ridiculous, wanting her to buy his lunch right when the class bell rang. He went to her classroom and grabbed her by the uniform collar. A clueless guy with no character or manners. She even threatened other people not to rat him out to the teachers. In a private conversation with Scarlet, he said he hated how he was treated just because she's in the special course and he's in the common one. Besides having no character, he's incompetent. Scarlet understood why he was more irritated than usual. Prince Kyle grabs a knife and threatens to cut Scarlet's silver hair, saying he'll show it to the classmates in the common course. Scarlet is just about to punch him, but then Crown Prince Julius intervenes and tells the couple to stop their little squabble. He climbs down from the tree and says it's because of this kind of attitude that Kyle got demoted to the common course. The younger brother is all pissed off, and Julius apologizes to Scarlet for his brother's behavior. The Vandimian lady says it's nothing, since he always acts like this. Julius turns on the alarm and says he heard his foolish little brother was treating his fiancée in a very immature way, but he hopes the knife threats aren't a frequent occurrence, and tells Kyle to give him a good explanation. Kyle says it was Scarlet who bothered him too much, and orders his lackey, Sigurd, to remove Julius from a scene. But a mere servant can't remove a member of the royal family, especially the crown prince. With that said, Kyle says there will be payback and leaves. Scarlet thanks Julius for his help in saving her, but the prince actually saved his brother from getting a beating. Scarlet is impressed by his sharp observation. She asks what Julius was doing up in the tree. He replies reading a book, because doing it in the classroom just attracts more and more bootlickers to him. Scarlet really wished the members of his group could hear that. And she explains that in the kingdom of Palestine, there are two princes. Julius, the eldest son of the queen, who doesn't tolerate injustice, which made the corrupt nobles want to crown the jerk Kyle. Thanks to that, there are always conflicts between the two factions. Julius says he wouldn't mind spending more time in the classroom, since he found something much more interesting than a book, but Scarlet doesn't like that look in his eyes. At school, the aptitude test results came out, and Prince Julius got first place, taking Scarlet's usual spot. Everyone is impressed that the guy got top marks in every subject. Scarlet only didn't get top marks in fencing and magic, because the teachers, out of mere whim, said her sword handling was unsatisfactory and her magic circles were sloppy. She's annoyed that Julius got first place. And speaking of him, the guy shows up and whispers in Scarlet's ear that it was way too easy to get top marks. Scarlet takes this as a challenge, and from that day on, the two became almost like rivals. Scarlet managed to get first place again, but Julius told her it was good to see her putting in the effort outdoors, and that he let her win, patting her head, so much so that her classmates think there's love in the air. Scarlet started avoiding Crown Prince Julius. At sunset, Julius thinks it's a pity his brother has such an interesting fiancée, and says that of all the animals he's observed, Scarlet is the most intriguing one. She gets mad about it. The guy sees her as a rare specimen and is just studying her. From then on, she stored up a lot of rage and stress, spending years dreaming of the day she'd beat up the princes. Cutting back to the present, she throws a punch into Baronet's face, who falls down beautifully. After that, Scarlet puts on her gloves and says everyone's going to get hit. After all, they're all Kyle's disgusting noble followers, putting the guards to sleep with magic. Scarlet starts beating up everyone. The disgusting guys blurt out that they own slaves, and we're hoping that with Kyle becoming king, the legal slave trade would become a reality. With that, Scarlet will take great pleasure in finishing them all off, and that's exactly what the Van Diemen lady does. One of the nobles remembers her nickname, the Furious Beast Lady. Scarlet, with blood on her face, invites Kyle for one last dance at this ball. Scarlet punches the jerk right in the face, ignoring the warning from her brother Leonardo and the arrival of Prince Julius. Now she feels much more relieved. Scarlet is pissed to see Prince Julius in her presence. He says he came after hearing about the ball situation, but wants to know the reason for all the violence. Scarlet says those nobles committed horrible crimes she dares not repeat. Plus, they didn't reflect on their mistakes and acted totally selfishly. Julius asks her to be more direct. Scarlet simply got angry and beat everyone up. Julius believes it must have been a spectacle, Scarlet's fist pounding everyone. Leonardo, on the other hand, is worried about the family's reputation now, which had been at peace for 10 years. Then Scarlet starts feeling dizzy and faints right there. She hears the sound of the church bell that whistles the time god Cronoa, and realizes she used that god's blessing power too much. When she wakes up, there's a maid on top of her with a knife, about to take her out, but the lady already sends her flying with a punch that pins her to the wall. Leonardo arrives and is almost having a fit with each atrocity he discovers about his sister. The fight Scarlet started is being talked about throughout the whole kingdom. According to Julius, the people are happy with her attitude, the fist heroine who put criminals in jail. Her bloodstained silhouette, while terrible, is beautiful at the same time, which is why she got the title of Bloody Princess. Leonardo goes crazy over this. One terrible title is replaced by another. Then Julius says the country will be very busy now, as there will be a heavy investigation to replace all the corrupt nobles in the assembly. And there's still the advisor, Gatto and Benet Carmen, who heavily influenced the trash nobles to follow Prince Kyle. He's the one who needs the harshest punishment. Julius and Leonardo plan a way to clean up all this filth and whoever is behind it all, which is why they created the Court Investigation Bureau. Leo is acting as the director of this organization. Later, Scarlet goes to a cabin and a wild cat attacks her. Scarlet is cool with the slap it gives and tells Nanika of the Farah people to return to her human form for a better conversation. Nanika does this and Scarlet sees it was the maid from before who is actually a man. And by the mark he has, he's someone's slave, meaning he has no choice but to obey the orders to take out Lady Scarlet. She says if she frees him from the slave magic, she wants to know everything about Nanika's contractor. He accepts, somewhat doubtful, but gets tripped up, and Scarlet uses a reversal magic on Nanika. In this world, people are blessed by various types of gods and receive the gift of life. Most people don't realize which god gave them their power and never awaken it, but some manage to, and when that happens, it's called a blessing. Scarlet reversed the time of Nanika's body to the moment before he was a slave. This is the blessing of Cronoa, the god of time, the power of reversal, and that's the reason the royal court wants to capture her. But there are several criteria for using it. Scarlet can only use her blessing for a short time. Otherwise, it shortens her life and she could kick the bucket. During the ball, she used the acceleration power and that's why she fainted. She asks Nanika not to tell anyone about her power. Nanika says his contractor is the noble Godwin, who ordered him to take out the bloody princess because she beat up his son, a guy named Rain who was involved with Prince Kyle. But Nanika didn't want to kill her, just gather information on the Van Diemen Duchy. Godwin is a trash human being who makes people infiltrate nobles' houses like Nanika did, to dig up dirt on the nobles, thus forcing them into trafficking people and taking bribes, obliging them to side with him. With that said, Scarlet decides to take down Godwin, but Nanika says it's better to ask Director Leo for help. Scarlet, however, wants to beat the crap out of the old man before her brother and Prince Julius capture him. After all, for Scarlet, Punching whoever irritates you is basic lady etiquette. Nanika says that once a month Godwin appears at a slave auction, which will happen in a week. For this, they need to get information from the merchants to find the location of the criminal event. The two form a duo and head out on the mission. Julius heard everything from outside the cabin. The two head to the commoner part of the kingdom 3 days later. Prince Julius is following them and wants to see how Scarlet will handle the Godwin situation, with the goal of doing his social study. Because when he becomes king, he wants to truly change the country. So he needs to be present where the people live to understand their difficulties and hardships. But in reality, Julius just wants to have fun watching Scarlet punch everyone. With that said, some vandals show up wanting to rob them, and Scarlet is already ready to punch the worthless scum. Nanika says he wants to know where John Key, the middleman, is, but the guys are going to talk easily. The bandits really just want to rob the defenseless nobles wandering around. Scarlet uses her Cronoa acceleration and doesn't spare any of the sorry lot, delivering satisfying punches and kicks. One of the bandits finally recognizes Scarlet and calls her the punching princess. The lady now wants the pertinent information, and the thug wants her to spare his life, so he spills everything about John Key. But he still gets beaten up. Scarlet wants to know why Julius did nothing and just watched. He says he was marveling at the performance. Julius goes to extract information from John Key and manages easily, with his bluff that John Key spilled the slave info to other merchants. On the way back, Scarlet and Julius want to know how to infiltrate a slave into this criminal auction and look at Nanika, who has an idea. A noble from the kingdom of Palestine is surprised that Lady Scarlet showed up to acquire a slave. But even if she wants a slave in secret from her father, dealing with a scoundrel like John Key will only stain her reputation. Scarlet says she can't find him and asks what Zadarin's relationship with John Key is. He says they aren't close. The two just have a contract where John Key brings him slaves who fled from the suburbs and have eccentric value like elves, dwarves, winged folk, demons, and beast folk. The beast folk representatives have the highest value, like Nanika, who's with Scarlet. She wants to know how Zadarin found out about Nanika. He says it was by his appearance, and Zadarin says this beast folk slave of Scarlet's is a great calling card. The lady is furious and holds herself back from wrecking this creep's face. Zadarin wants to know what slave she desires. The lady says she wants to participate in the upcoming auction. For that, she'd need to pass a verification, which would reveal her identity and require proof of purchasing at least 6 slaves for her family, and that could take about 6 months. Scarlet says if it's all about money, she can pay. But Zadarin says if she can hand over Nanika, he can take her to the auction as his daughter, and she'll pass through the auction just fine. Scarlet acts like never before and accepts with an open heart. Scarlet is outraged that important people in the kingdom constantly do this rotten auction. But the good thing is their plan to infiltrate worked. Nanika was surprised Scarlet resolved everything through dialogue. Scarlet meets up with Prince Julius at the city market, and a vendor offers a beautiful apple pie to the pretty lady. Julius orders one for both of them and escorts Scarlet to get away from the vendors who offer overpriced products that aren't even worth it. However, he buys everything for Lady Scarlet. She asks if he has anything better to do here. He says he has nothing. Scarlet punches the wall, wishing it was the prince's face. Then, to calm her, Julius gives her the apple pie, which is way too tasty. The two sit on a small bench, and Julius says he really likes relaxing among the people. Scarlet says she only came here to buy lunch for the second prince. Julius has always admired Scarlet since she was little. He always found everything in this world boring, but with Scarlet, it's different. She always entertains him. The guy is very forward and gives her cheek a kiss. Julius says his feelings are very different from the common romances out there. Scarlet is very precious to the prince, more than anything in this world. At sunset, Scarlet lies down in her room at an inn and thinks. Julius might have done that just to provoke her and play with her feelings. The next day, Scarlet meets with Zadarin for the slave auction and promises to hand over Nanika. He might even accept, but first wants to confirm if he really is part of the beast folk. All as a precaution, because sometimes people sell folks who are just pretending to be beast folk. Nanika transforms and shows he's the real deal. So Zadarin says he'll be the featured product of the auction. Just then, a guard named Donovan, who's a beast man, shows up. He must be a lycanthrope, and Nanika doesn't like the crazy look in his eyes. He puts a collar on him to take him away and almost whips Nanika, but Scarlet stops him and says she'll be the one to train this wolf boy. The guy has the nerve to call Scarlet a lady of the night, to put it nicely. Zadarin says this beast man used to be a Class A adventurer, so it's best not to mess with him. But to Scarlet, that's nothing. She's way stronger and punches the guy, sending him flying. Then she heals Nanika's wounds and swears she'll come back for him. Zadarin is now scared shitless and will do everything right for Lady Scarlet. Her brother Leonardo arrives, angry, and wants to hear all the crazy stuff she did. The auction will happen in 2 days at night, and Leonardo needs to prepare everything on time. Write the plan, gather the soldiers, etc. Leonardo asks Scarlett to return home, but the brawler doesn't want to. Since the day she broke off her engagement, a lot of things have happened. That's why she doesn't care about anything anymore and can't hold back from hitting those who deserve it. Plus, she's met many children in horrible situations having to beg for food. Since she was very young, she thought it made no sense for good people to suffer so much while rotten people get away with it. That's why she wants to beat up the filthy nobles to take out her anger. No one is better suited for this than her, a duke's daughter, who can do it and get away with it. Leonardo is worried about the family's reputation if Scarlett keeps beating up the kingdom's nobles. Leonardo says there are suspicions that Godwin is also involved with Vanquish, an empire that's been in a cycle of conflict with Palestine for 300 years. They're mostly a military nation specialized in dragon riding. However, since the latest ceasefire, the two countries have been trying to build a friendlier relationship. Leonardo reveals that the individual link to Godwin might be from the aerial assault troops, the Crimson Celestial Dragon Order. Speaking of the rat, Godwin is pissed that Scarlett is messing up his plans and asks a soldier from Vanquish to eliminate her. He leaves on his dragon, and the skank who was with the second prince shows Godwin a firearm given to her by Palmia. He's never seen this type of item before, and the hag demonstrates its firepower. She tells Godwin to use it against anyone who gets in their way. Scarlett arrives at the auction and Zadarin gives her a mask to enter the venue. Julius tells Leo that if the Crimson Dragonite Order of Vanquish is involved, it's actually better that Scarlett got in. There's no time until the auction, and for undercover agents, only 10 from the Investigation Bureau could go. Plus, they'd have to lose their weapons to enter. Exactly for that reason, Scarlett can handle everything even unarmed with her power. Thus, Lady Scarlett's new nickname will be Fist of Salvation. Leo's team is prepared, they just need Scarlett's part to work and for her to give the signal. Scarlett enters with Prince Julius and has a request for the blondie. She offers her unshakable loyalty to the royal family until the day she dies in exchange for this favor. Julius doesn't like that. He wants Scarlett to swear loyalty only to him. He's very forward and wants it now. Scarlett says it's not worth it to coerce her like that, you charmer. Godwin is watching the stage from above. So Julius says they'll show him the biggest beating he's ever seen. Because now the old man is going to get beaten up and become Scarlett's punching bag. Underground, an elf mother is taken out as a product, and there's nothing the imprisoned slaves can do. Nanika tries to calm the child and says everything will be okay. Scarlett runs into some rotten scoundrels on the way and wants to have fun with them before the main course. Without any mercy, Scarlett beats up everyone there to the sound of a classical Beethoven symphony. She kicks and punches all over the place and ends up finding Godwin. His son already freaks out at Lady Scarlett's presence. He tries to summon his lightning magic to attack Scarlett, but Prince Julius uses his ring that nullifies magic to stop it. Godwin realizes right away that if he can use that royal artifact, it can only mean the prince himself is there. The most beautiful blondie terrifies everyone. The rotten nobles refuse to believe it's Prince Julius, and so they call for the beast man Donovan, whom Scarlett defeated earlier. But the guard Sigurd cuts the beast's arm off before he can do anything. Scarlett, with a smile on her face, sends all the criminals flying, causing the biggest chaos at the auction. Leo went to check on the mission and was horrified by the blood on his sister and all the unconscious people. Scarlett says she still needs to go after Godwin, and Julius has to call the castle guards. Julius gives the signal and the team prepares. Leo uses clairvoyance magic and finds out where Godwin and his son are. They are fleeing towards a staircase leading to the roof. And a vanquished knight is there. Scarlett takes off her shoes and uses her time magic, rushing off to smash Godwin. With her superhuman speed, she's capable of that. Scarlett appears before the vanquished knight can kill Godwin with his dragon. The guy is so impressed he proposes to the lady, but immediately gets punched in the face and sent flying. Not even the dragon is a match for Scarlett. This only made Alflame fall even more in love. Because of this, Scarlett hits him more, but the guy is resistant and keeps getting up. Although he's all shaky, Scarlett knows very well who the lovesick redhead is. He's the Prince of Vanquish, and his duty is to finish off Godwin, as they don't care about an old man who sold out his own nation just to get a high position in the Vanquish Empire. He almost finishes the old man off, but Scarlett won't let him take her prey, and so Alflame grabs Scarlett by the ankle, which isn't very chivalrous. Scarlett sees the man as confidence as robust as his physique. Alflame reveals that his blessing from the goddess of steel, Meteor, allows him to metalize his body, and no physical attack works against the Prince of Vanquish. Scarlett says there is a way to beat him and knees him in the face, repeating it many times. Alflame seems to enjoy getting hit, as he doesn't stop complimenting the Lady Brawler. However, while his body may be steel, his mind still takes the impact, and thus he suffers a concussion. Scarlett grabs the crazy guy and sends him flying back to Vanquish. To avoid getting beaten, Godwin reveals that he used Darenetza to break off Scarlett's engagement. Now the lady really wants to make him pay for the humiliation she went through. Then Godwin says it was all Veronezza's idea, and that her true identity is that she's not from this world. Using the power of a goddess, she was reincarnated into this world after kicking the bucket. Zadarin tries to escape from the prince's guard, and before that wants to take the beast man Nanako with him. But Leo, Sigurd, and the crew arrive to mess things up. Scarlet is surprised that Veronezza is behind everything. But what she really wants is to smash Godwin's face in. The old man says Scarlet can have anything she wants with the power he has. So the bloody lady really just wants to punch a filthy old man who's rotten inside. Scarlet uses overclock magic, making the world move at 1/100th of its normal speed. She's the only one who can move within this field. With this, Scarlet lands multiple punches on Godwin, for the kingdom, for Nanika, for herself, and for the pleasure of hitting someone. Thus, the beautiful lady satisfies herself and the scoundrel flies and smashes into the wall. Scarlet used her blessing too much, causing her silver hair to turn a bit black and her hands to bleed. She falls, but Julius catches her and uses his healing on her. The group arrives to help her, then Godwin surprises them with a firearm and shoots to take the lady out. However, Julius steps in front to protect her. Godwin is all happy that the prince decided to play the hero, but Scarlet doesn't waste time and immediately lays into Godwin. She grabs the necklace he had, given by the young saint who holds the power of the goddess Palmia. Scarlet doesn't care about that and wants to beat Godwin until he kicks the bucket. With that, he goes flying, and Scarlet says she's avenged Julius's death, but the guy is perfectly alive with his healing magic, and he asks if Scarlet was sad. She says she's very happy that Julius is okay. Veronezza goes hooded to the prison and enchants the guards to obey her. Her desire is to marry a handsome prince and live a fairy tale romance, being the most beloved princess of all. Her perfect happy ending. Godwin thanks Veronezza for coming and says he'll do anything for the goddess Palmia if she gets him out of his cell. Veronezza says she's grateful for everything and happy for Godwin's services. So she enchants the old man with the blessing of the goddess Palmia and places a vial inside the cell. She leaves and lets Godwin poison himself. Now Veronezza wants to finish off the villain of her story, Scarlet. The brawler lady visits her school friends to chat. Everything was going fine, but then Prince Julius shows up to torment the poor girl again. She says his presence is a bother here, but her friends don't think that at all. It's actually an honor for them. With that said, Julius asks to borrow Scarlet to have a private conversation. The two girls are freaking out about the vibe between them and want love to blossom. Julius says he investigated Veronezza, but found out nothing from his brother Kyle. Because of this, Scarlet wants to know if something is missing. Julius asks about her hair, and Scarlet says there's nothing to be done, but she has considered going to the hot springs that relieve the physical and mental stress from blessings. Julius thinks that's great and starts picking flowers, talking about how his parents met by a lake, observing nature. Julius's father, with all his love, gave a flower crown, just like Julius does now for Scarlet. He needs her to make his world shine and be fun. These forward words would touch anyone, especially with him touching Scarlet's face. But the guy calls her his beloved toy. What a crazy bastard. Scarlet gets furious with Prince Julius and really wants to punch him. So she asks Julius to let her punch the bastard in front of her with all her hatred. Scarlet tells Leo she'd like to travel to the hot springs, but he thinks she's just making up excuses to hit someone. Leo had thought she and Julius had made vows of love, and now that he knows the truth, he's disappointed. Leo remembers that Scarlet always wants to travel around this time of year. Could her next victim be the saint? But Scarlet says she'd never do that to someone as important to Palestine as the saint. With that said, Leo permits the trip, and Scarlet goes with a smile on her face, but she'll have to travel in the company of Prince Julius. Julius reveals that since the Godwin incident, the movements between countries have gotten weird. They cleaned out the corrupt nobles, but the palace is still in chaos. From the carriage, you can see the starting point of the pilgrimage destination, the Wall of Impurity. Inside this place is a Pominism church whose priest is a greedy, immoral merchant named Sargon, the opportunistic parvenu. Now Scarlet has someone to punch. However, the gate closes to prevent the pilgrimage from happening. Julius complains about this childish attitude, and another priest named Jarmov shows up talking nonsense. He looks like a bad guy, and Scarlet is dying to punch his face in. So Scarlet uses Cronoa's blessing and forces her way in with Julius. The soldiers run away because they realized who Lady Scarlet is. Then Jarmov wants to fight, but Scarlet stops him with a spear, sends his iron ball right back at him, and then sends him flying into space. Scarlet and Julius go to meet Saint Diana. The prince wants to talk in private about the pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Then the saint appears, calls Scarlet Big Sister, and is all happy to see her. Julius says the saint should greet him too, but that attitude isn't suitable for a saint, according to Julius. Diana is furious with the prince and tells him to get lost. She doesn't want any man touching her and asks Scarlet to beat him up. Little does she know the protagonist wants to do that all the time, but holds back. The meeting with Diana begins, and Scarlett tells the story of the pilgrimage to the Holy Land, which dates back 300 years. When the kingdom of Palestine was constantly attacked by demons and its territories were being taken over, but then a young woman with exorcism powers appeared near the border and used a light-type attack on the beasts and saved everyone. She went to villages in the four corners of the kingdom and placed pure crystals to create a barrier, thus protecting Palestine from horrendous monsters. But then, the effect of this barrier wasn't maintained after that young woman's death. Because of this, another girl with the same name, Diana, appeared, who restored the crystals and repaired the barrier. Since then, the king of Palestine erected a cathedral for young girls born with divine powers, who would be worshipped as symbols of faith. After that, with each generation, a new priestess Diana is born, who with exorcism powers always restores Palestine's barrier. The march for the pilgrimage with Saint Diana begins. The people are all amazed by her elegant appearance and cheer for Saint Diana. But out of nowhere, a tremor happens repeatedly, causing Scarlett to leave the carriage to see what it is. The noise is coming from the Palmianism headquarters, and using Cronoa's blessing, Scarlett quickly heads there. She smashes the statue of the goddess Palmia, borrowing her spear to beat up some fools. Scarlett uses her Cronoa blessing and chucks the spear at the Palmia Cathedral, destroying everything. The religious faithful are in disbelief at this. Then Scarlett appears before them and is surprised no one's hurt, despite the damage she did to the building. The silver demon won't get away with this against Palmia's followers, they shout. Scarlett makes fun of them, and the fanatics trust their ugly, bald inquisitor to handle Lady Scarlett. The bald guy goes crazy seeing Scarlett holding the head of a goddess's statue, and says she'll pay for this sin using his club magic. But he gets hit in the face with a golden head and loses real quick. The guys cry about carrying out their plan in Palmia's name. But Scarlett doesn't care about these weak fanatics and knocks the bald one out. She then starts beating up all the others for the chaos they caused. Now the lady is going to give them a world of hurt to see if they stop being stupid. Scarlett took care of the religious fanatics and heads outside, leaving the guys' prison to the royal guard. In the city, the royal palace healers have arrived to treat the civilians' injuries. Saint Diana is happy and calls for Scarlett, when suddenly the platform she's on starts to crack and collapses. The priestess almost gets seriously hurt on the ground, but a handsome knight arrives to her rescue. Scarlett's older brother, Leonardo Van Diemen. Diana falls in love at first sight with a noble and gentle man. Julius talks with Sigurd and wants to know how the Palmianists knew the time he and Scarlett would arrive for the pilgrimage. So he asks Sigurd to infiltrate the Palmianists and find out who among them is disguised within the pilgrimage entourage. Julius doesn't want there to be a traitor, but he needs to take precautions. Man, I'm suspicious of Sigurd, folks. I doubt everyone. At night, Saint Diana's handmaidens ask Scarlett for help with the saint's behavior. The girl is all happy and bouncy, and nobody knows why. When Scarlett enters her tent, that's when the priestess gets even more excited. Then Diana explains that every time she looks at Scarlett, she's reminded of her older brother Leo, and confesses she fell in love with him when he saved her. Scarlett is happy for Diana having good taste in men. After all, her brother is a fine and respected man. Scarlett will help Diana get closer to Leo and has an idea. A week later, the pilgrimage reaches the city of Memphis on Palestine's border. There, the saint receives many visits from travelers due to the number of hot springs. The two, in their hot spring bath, plan Diana's meeting with Leonardo. The saint will invite him for an evening date at the city festival. Scarlett gets her dressed in yukata with her hair down, a very casual vibe to hook Leo. Diana is amazed that the punch-happy lady knows so much about dating stuff. Truth is, Scarlett had already told her brother to accept Diana's invitation for a walk, to fulfill her wish to be a normal girl. When Diana invites him, Leo accepts without a problem. Julius and Scarlett walk together at the festival, and on the way they run into some annoying adventurers who are breaking merchant stuff. Scarlett is going to beat them up, and Julius pays the old man for everything he lost, and everything he's about to lose from the beating Scarlett will give the scoundrels. Diana and Leonardo enjoy the moment together and do various things, even try on matching cat ears. The girl is sad that Leo only sees her as a little sister because she reminds him of a younger Scarlett. But then Leo needs to go see what his sister has gotten into this time, and Diana needs to return to the inn, unable to tell him she's lost her powers as a priestess. In the Vanquish Empire, an old man from Palmianism, Inquisitor Michelin, asks His Highness Alflame and his Crimson Dragon Knights for a little favor that I end the Palmia religion. An extra tells His Holiness the pilgrimage has reached Memphis, and the faithful are worried, but His Holiness says not to panic, because he has a spy within the pilgrimage whom he trusts completely. Little does the fat old man know that Sigurd is disguised as a soldier and is listening to everything. The pilgrimage marches deep into the mountain, and Saint Diana is really exhausted. Scarlett tells her to hang in there. It's just a little further. Leo takes the saint's hand and says they can stop to rest for a while if Diana wants. but she, all embarrassed by her crush, says she's fine and can walk much more. The soldiers are also tired, and the commander says this is no way to honor the Dianism order. He apologizes to Lady Scarlet for this pathetic scene from his men. However, Scarlet Van Diemen says it's nothing. After all, the soldiers are wearing heavy armor and scanning the area, always alert to dangers. With her pure smile, Scarlet cheers up the soldiers who think a goddess is standing before them, and they gain more strength to continue the hike. Julius says this pure maiden trick is great for manipulating men, truly living up to her villain role. Scarlet remarks that she won't always be the pure and adorable Scarlet. Julius says that from the looks of it, it seems like Scarlet was always pure and adorable since childhood. Then she says that's right to the Golden Monarch, a nickname Leo told her the ladies at night parties called Julius. Then the nosy guy Dios shows up, saying Scarlet seems happier talking to Prince Julius, even more lively, and Julius agrees. Scarlet says Sir Dios is stronger than he looks. He reveals that forests and mountains are like backyards for elves, so he feels much more at ease. This made Dios go up in Scarlet's estimation, which bothers Dios, but only a little. He's confused if he should take it slow to avoid messing up. Scarlet says that's a good question and smiles. Dios goes crazy over a lady's smile and asks Scarlet for a chance to win her heart. With that said, Scarlet is annoyed by the insistence, and Julius asks Leo and the others to walk ahead a bit so they aren't caught in the crossfire. Then Scarlet uses wind magic and launches Dios into Earth's orbit. Scarlet says maybe in his next reincarnation he can try again. The group arrives at the Memphis crystal, and Leo observes it's very impure and damaged, all in just 1 year. He tells his sister that's where the saint changes, so Scarlet says it's no problem, since she's also a saint. This leaves Leo with "are you kidding me" face. Then the handmaidens arrive and give the sacred robes to Scarlet to change into. Leo is in shock, thinks this is some scheme of his sister's, and asks her what's going on. Julius can't stop laughing and tells the lady to just spill the truth already. Scarlet reveals there isn't only one saint in Dianism. Just like Diana, she is also a priestess. Publicly, there's only one saint, but since the third generation, 2 saints have been born to protect the kingdom of Palestine. The saint's power depends on the blessing of Cronoa. One of them purifies the corruption in the crystal, while the other installs a new barrier. However, with Saint Diana unable to install the barrier, they'll need more than just a yearly purification of the crystal. Using Cronoa's power, Scarlet will rewind the barrier's time, purify it, and install the divine barrier. So Lady Scarlet begins the purification rite and starts removing the impurities. Diana finds everything her big sister does beautiful. Dios returns from space and finds all this very extravagant. His commander tells him to be quiet, as Scarlet's robe is to protect her body from the sacred crystal. With that said, Cronoa's blessing activates, and the crystal reverts to its past state. Leo is amazed by this, and Julius says that even among Cronoa's blessings, the power to rewind time is very rare. That's why the royal family kept it a secret from Scarlet's family that she is a saint of Dianism. Leo now understands why Scarlet was chosen to be Prince Kyle's fiancée, and why Julius is trying to build a connection with her. Julius thinks Leo didn't like his answer regarding his motives. Leo says that's not it at all. The rite ends, and the next location for the pilgrimage is Snowwind to the north. Diana goes to congratulate Scarlet, who notices her little one isn't feeling well. Diana feels guilty for not being able to help and thinks she's useless. Scarlet comforts her with a hug and looks forward to next year's pilgrimage. Diana feels more relieved, and Dios watches everything with a suspicious look. The journey continues, and Julius seems thoughtful. In his tent, he receives a message from Sigurd saying there's a traitor in the pilgrimage. He can't confirm the identity yet, and there might be more than one. In the present, Leo snaps Julius out of his thoughts, and Julius says it's pretty cold where they are. Leo says it's because they're in Snowend, the city where it snows all year round. Scarlet doesn't handle the cold well, as it can affect her fists for punching filthy scumbags. Julius tells her to be patient until they reach the Lord's residence, as they'll have a special reception as usual. Arriving in Snowend, the city doesn't welcome the pilgrimage very well, and Julius wants to know why from Count Padrak. He says the prince is being deceived by the scum who pretends to be a saint. The commander doesn't like the way the old man talks to Saint Diana, but Padrak doesn't care and says he knows the pilgrimage just steals money from the cities it passes through, and he won't let that happen to him. Padrak won't give a single cent of his. The commander says no one would take anything not meant for the pilgrimage. Then Leo intervenes and comments that the money is given by the people to manage the kingdom. It doesn't belong to Count Padrak, and if he delays the pilgrimage for a trivial reason, he'll bring ruin to the kingdom. Padrak says that's not necessary, because there is a goddess who will save the kingdom of Palestine and guide them from now on. He shows them the new guardian angel of Palestine, the saint of the Pomanism religion, Veronetza Hopkins. The skank had been waiting for Scarlet, the great villain of the story, for a good while. The punch-happy lady says she hasn't seen her since Prince Kyle's ball. One of the extras is the son of a priest Scarlet wrecked at the ball. And Julius says even though he's a noble, he's easy to forget since he has no aura or presence. Scarlett says it looks like the baby is going to cry and can dry his tears with her fists. Veronezza says the clown show is over and uses her blessing to enchant her faithful cattle. She asks them to do anything for her. Julius tells everyone not to breathe in the pink mist. And Hopkins says this is the captivation blessing. So Scarlett figures out that's what the skank used to enchant Prince Kyle and make him break off the engagement at the ball. Even though he's dumb, that was too much even for him. Now it all makes sense. Hopkins wants to see the ugly look on Scarlett's face, asking if the lady liked Prince Kyle and wants her to suffer a lot. Scarlett wants to know if Veronezza's blessing doesn't work on women. She says she'd gain nothing by enchanting women. That's a given. Now the brawler lady is prepared, and her heart beats with joy seeing Veronezza's face, knowing it's about to get all disfigured by the violent lady's fists. With that said, the skank sends her army of cattle to attack Scarlett and ignore the others. Julius and the others defend her, while Scarlett tries to cast a sleep spell, but the No-Aura noble stops her with a silent spell, saying her tricks will never work. Now the Palmia mages use a chain spell to restrain Scarlett, and she knows her biggest weakness, since she fights hand-to-hand, is spells that restrict her mobility. However, Scarlett came prepared for these annoying obstacles, and uses her scarlet earrings to break the spell. They were made from specific red crystals that nullify movement-locking magic. Thus, she can beat up all the extras without any difficulty, even delivering a mighty kick that breaks the ground. Veronezza orders her lackey to stop Scarlett from getting any closer. The hot blonde doesn't like Veronezza's tone, but she'll follow orders and detain Scarlett. Isabella, the punishment of love, uses her whip, but Scarlett runs without worry, dodges, and delivers a fine kick to Isabella, knocking her out. She approaches Veronezza and says she didn't get hit enough of the ball and lands a punch. But the skank uses the stolen magic from Saint Diana and protects herself. Then the traitor shows himself and takes Diana hostage. The commander wants to know what this nonsense is, and Dios, who didn't even want to get involved in this big problem, says it's best for everyone if nothing happens to Lady Diana, and holds a knife to her neck. He's an inquisitor of Palmanism too. Dios negotiates a trade of the two saints. If they delay, he might hurt Diana. Leo quickly agrees to the trade and hugs Saint Diana to calm her. With that said, Dios and Veronezza leave with wind magic, and the skank gets away unscathed. Scarlett collapses on the ground, exhausted from using her blessing. Everyone is okay, and she relaxes in the prince's arms, asking to at least be allowed to land the final blow on that skank Saint Veronezza. Scarlett wakes up in a sacred world and meets the god Cronoa, who says he hasn't seen her since she was a fetus, when he gave her her powers. Scarlett thanks him for his great kindness. Cronoa is surprised she's so well behaved, since in the human world she's so violent. Scarlett says it's for the sake of the innocent. Because of this, Cronoa has a favor to ask the punch-happy lady. He'd like Scarlett to recover the saint's blessing from Veronezza, the Palmanism priestess who stole it. He says it all started because of the love the goddess Palmia feels for him. Scarlett is doubtful about this. Cronoa says she's very jealous and didn't like him giving blessings to humans. So between Diana and Scarlett, who received Cronoa's blessing, Palmia decided to take Diana's. But gods are forbidden from interfering directly in the human world. So Palmia decided to use a pawn, Veronezza Hopkins of Palmanism. Palmia created her avatar from a piece of her own hair so it could have a fraction of her powers. But even being a goddess, it's impossible to create a soul for a body. Therefore, Palmia used her powers in another world and ended the life of a schoolgirl to take her soul, placing it into her new avatar. The soul she stole belonged to Theresia Himemia, and now that she's in Palestine, she's the personal agent of the goddess Palmia. The goddess is using her to ruin the people who receive Cronoa's blessing, and destroy the blessing that protects Palestine from all the monsters and evils around it. Scarlett gets more furious than usual. She made Diana suffer and put the kingdom of Palestine in danger for a trivial reason like jealousy? What a piece of work. Then Cronoa gives her a pocket watch from the god of spacetime. If Scarlett holds it up in front of Veronezza, she'll be able to recover Saint Diana's blessing. Plus, the brawler lady gets an upgrade to her Cronoa blessing, maxed out to its limit. She can feel free to test it out on punching bags with the faces of dirty nobles. Scarlett tests her new powers and punches everything. Now she's finally going to land a hit on a target worthy of all this power. 7 years ago, in a small village in the kingdom of Palestine, Sonia and her friend had a silly kids argument. That night, her mother read Sonia a book about Saint Diana, hoping she'd be kind and gentle like her. Sonia just couldn't take it seriously. After all, she'd just fought with her little friend. Sleepiness took over, and Sonia drifted off. Suddenly, she had this weird dream where a lady appeared and gave her a divine power, saying that from now on, Sonia would have the blessing of Saint Diana, becoming the new priestess of Dianism. The little girl woke up feeling her new powers and went to tell her family she'd become a saint. They didn't believe her at first, but then Sonia showed them Saint Diana's barrier power, and her parents were totally shocked. Her old man wanted to announce it to the whole village. That day, Sonia's life was about to change forever. A simple village girl had no idea what was in store for her. Sonia looked out the window and saw the whole village kneeling and praying for her. At first, she thought it was amazing how popular she'd already become. Sonia went to her friend Mary and apologized for their fight the other day, but now Mary felt awkward and thought it was weird to be friends with a saint. Her father said everyone must bow before Saint Diana, and Sonia started feeling weird about the whole thing. In the distance, she saw the religion of Dianism approaching. These faithful followers and knights had come to take the new Saint Diana to the capital of Palestine, because all the citizens were waiting for her. Sonia's father wished her a good journey, but not as his daughter, as Saint Diana, a perfect being placed on a pedestal. This left the girl confused and sad, treated differently by her own dad. Sonia regretted ever telling them she was a saint. The girl went with the Dianism lady in a carriage, and the lady said since the old saint had kicked the bucket, Sonia would now protect the kingdom as the new Diana. The little one realized nobody would need the simple Sonia anymore. So she thought that by using these saint powers she got from the gods, she could do something more. With that, Sonia met her partner saint, Scarlet, and was immediately impressed by the grace of Lady Van Diemen. The two became really close fast. One day Sonia wanted to know why Scarlet was so perfect, since without saint powers, she herself was nobody. Little Scarlet, to comfort her, said that whenever Sonia smiles, it makes everyone's heart happy. And that's not because she's Saint Diana, but because she's herself. Only Sonia can do that. Sonia didn't like hearing that, because she's not happy with herself and always cares what others think. Plus, she's pretty jealous of her big sis. Sonia gets summoned by Julius and goes to see how Scarlet is. Julius has a major attitude, because he found out from investigating the Palmanism leaders that Sonia and Dios were leaking info to the Palmyra religion. That's how those guys knew everything about the pilgrimage. Sonia admits it and that it was her fault Scarlet's life was in danger. Was she going to get arrested? Julius can't just arrest a saint like that. The political situation in Palestine would get even worse. And if Scarlet found out Sonia was imprisoned, she'd be devastated. Julius won't do anything until the pilgrimage is over, but he wants to know Sonia's reason for betraying them. But suddenly, a blinding pillar of light hits everyone, and it's super strong. This was Theranetz's doing, who messed up the kingdom's protective crystal, saying it was just a light of love. What a piece of work. Nanicus watching everything. Now the crystal is totally wrecked. Two troublemakers arrive from their missions, Avelin and Barak, along with the paladins of the Holy Empire Eldrand. Theranetza thanks them for the help. Barak looks around for Old Man Michelin, who represents Vanquish, and Avelin wants to know if the troublemaker managed to get help from the country of Falconia. Looks like everything's going according to plan. Lots of countries are joining Palmanism. With that, Nanika tries to run off and report this, but gets discovered and taken out by Theranetza, who remembers he's a partner of Scarlet. Leo informs Julius that the crystal is toast, which is why a bunch of monsters are heading for Snow End right now. Julius wants to know how long until the creatures arrive. Leo says less than an hour and there are a few hundred of them. Julius is suspicious. Monsters don't usually team up in such big groups. Something's fishy here. Leo says the city soldiers won't last much longer. So Julius gathers his Holy Order troops and orders them to evacuate the citizens, taking them to the central square and then out of the city. Right after, Sigurd shows up and says Falconia and the Holy Empire of Eldrand have declared war on Palestine, and armed troops are on their way. Julius is speechless at the challenges the gods are throwing at him. He orders Leo that after the troops evacuate Snow End citizens, everyone needs to fall back, and, along with the saint, return to the cathedral in the capital. Julius will head back first and ask Sigurd to go with him. Sonia notices something weird happened with that light and regrets everything she did, and that her big sis is in that state. She can't make anyone smile and says her heart is too rotten to make anyone happy. Suddenly, the traitor Dios shows up and knocked out all the guards. Sonia says she won't give any more info to Palmanism, but she can't forget why she did all this in the first place. One day, the Dianism faithful gave up on Sonia and decided to look for a replacement. In a moment of anger and frustration, Sonia is surprised by a rookie knight who just joined the Holy Order. His name is Dios. The knight said she could get the blessing's power back. Since the powers come from the gods, a human can't normally get it back. But he had something amazing, an item with the saint's power. All Diana had to do was take the goddess Palmia's power. This confirmed Dios is a Palmanism spy, and that thing in his hand was a saint's crystal containing Saint Diana's power. Sonia thought about the people who would suffer without the barrier's protection and how many could bite the dust because of it. Dios only gave one condition, that Sonia pass on information about the Dianism religion for a year. Above all, Sonia wanted her worth back by recovering her power, and she wanted Dios to promise no one would suffer from the info she leaked. Sonia was pretty dumb and naive here, wasn't she? Such a gullible girl. In the present, Sonia doesn't want to be a spy anymore and won't betray those she loves and who love her. She'll live without being ashamed of herself, like Scarlet. Dios is about to send the lady to La La Land while she sleeps, and Sonia tries to stab him to save her big sis. But Dios is strong and doesn't let her, grabbing her arm. Sonia is willing to sacrifice herself for Scarlet. With that, the punch-happy lady awakens. She gets up with incredible power and sends Dios flying to the ends of the earth with Cronola's blessing. What a way to wake up for Scarlet, punching a scumbag. She asks if Sonia is okay. Julius, on his way to the capital, says the crystals, destruction, and the invasions from other countries are surely the work of those Pominism lunatics. Then, descending from the sky, comes a soldier from the nation of Vanquish who wants to speak with Prince Julius. His name is Jean, vice captain of the Crimson Celestial Dragon Order. Jean gives Julius a message from His Highness Alflame, and he can't believe what he's reading. Meanwhile, Dios is captured and gets a beating from the Palestine soldiers. Dios plays the nice guy and says he'll help them with the monsters if they untie him. But he's not to be trusted. Scarlet arrives to have a chat with the half-elf. But the guy is quick and cuts the ropes to escape. But Scarlet yanks him back and says she knows everything about Dios from St. Diana. Scarlet wants to know what Dios truly wants. Because when Sonia fell from the platform, he was the quickest to react and was really worried about her. Dios then reveals he is Sonia's half-brother, sons of the same father. He doesn't know if Sonia knows about him, and Dios wanted to get revenge on their father who abandoned his mother. Then he found out about Sonia's existence, the cutest little sister in the world to him. The guy just melts and gets all weird. Scarlet is creeped out by the weirdo and his strange reaction. Dios only joined Pominism to help his sister, who lost her blessing. He only trusted their Anetza because of that. But since Sonia doesn't want her power back anymore, Dios wants to cut ties with Pominism too. That's why, to get Scarlet to trust him, he gives her a letter with valuable info about Palmia. But the main character doesn't care and tears the letter up. Angry, she says no one will trust the guy because of a simple piece of paper, whether he wanted to or not. Dios put the lives of many citizens at risk, regardless of his intentions being to help his sister get her blessing back. If Dios really wants to help, he needs to open his heart to Sonia. Scarlet gave Sonia a classy scolding and said she needed to apologize to everyone and accept her punishment. But for now, it's all right. Scarlet says Sonia is way stronger than Dios imagines. Hey there, today Scarlet is not in the mood for games and even beat up some pigs, a giant pig, and orcs. A war is going on and Scarlet is ready for all the violence. If you enjoy it and stick around until the end, drop a like to help out. Now let's get to the video. Leo detects the monsters approaching Palestine, and the commander orders the soldiers to quickly evacuate the citizens of Snowend, while Diana comforts the scared children. Leo says they will head to the capital and need to hurry. Scarlet, by a lake at night, thinks about how while she slept, two nations declared war and monsters invaded. The lady wanted to take back the blessing from St. Diana as soon as possible, but now there's no time for that. Then, coming out of the bushes, Julius arrives and surprises Scarlet. She thought he was on his way to the capital. Julius says he just arrived after finishing his job and suggests they could play ball to pass the time. Something's fishy, so Scarlet, who's no fool, says she could pat his head to reward all his work. Then little cat ears pop up on Julius, who gets all happy, saying he's not a dog and that wouldn't make him happy. Scarlet warns that she saw an evil Julius nearby, so the fake Julius gives himself away, saying he had checked everything, turns around, and Scarlet chops him with her hand, knocking him out. This prince was actually Nanika, using Beastman powers to disguise himself. Scarlet knew about this power and says it's really ugly for Nanika to do this to his master, but she knows he was under the influence of the captivity blessing. The next day, Nanika wakes up in the carriage with Scarlet and apologizes for being caught by the enemy and remembers to warn about Pominism and the other nations, but Scarlet already knows and tells him not to worry. The two arrive at the investigative cabinet meeting of Palestine, which will now decide the strategy to attack the enemies, and the woman is excited to punch a lot of people who are begging for it. Julius starts a conversation by saying that Palestine is surrounded by several nations. To the north is the Principality of Falconia, to the west, the Holy Empire of Eldrint, to the east, the Empire of Vanquish, and to the south, the Republic of Lindbergh. Scarlet knows all these countries have more land and military power than Palestine, so every bit of care and vigilance is needed. Until now, no one went to war because the nation's power was balanced, keeping the continent in equilibrium. However, when the Northern Holy Crystal was destroyed by Derenetza, Falconia and Eldrin declared war on Palestine, and monsters from all lands began invading the kingdom through a gap in the barrier, and their numbers could be over 50,000. This is not a force that Palestine can withstand, and the worst part is that the monsters seem to be controlled by something or someone, since they are marching straight to the capital of Palestine. Leo comments that there are troops from Falconia and Eldrin at the borders, which is also a danger, but it seems an immediate invasion won't happen. So Scarlet says they must be waiting for Palestine to be exhausted from dealing with the monsters before attacking the kingdom. Now that the whole desperate situation of Palestine has been explained, Julius wants to start the meeting, but the mood isn't good and no one wants to start talking. Julius thinks the place has a funeral vibe, and everyone agrees the prince is to blame for this heavy atmosphere. Julius says he has good news to share. A group contacted him, wanting to sell a favor upon seeing Palestine's situation. The help is coming from Prince Alflame of Vanquish. Leo doesn't like this. After all, he's the one who instigated Godwin to destroy the kingdom of Palestine. Sigurd asks His Highness to reconsider. So Scarlet says Julius must have thought about the pros and cons of joining Prince Alflame and followed logic without relying on emotion, but she says for those who were at the auction, allying with Alflame is inconceivable. Speaking of him, the guy is all over Scarlet, and I also wish you, my friend, were all excited to leave that like and subscribe to the channel so I can continue the video. Thanks. Scarlet wants to know the real intention behind this alliance, and Julius says he understands the feeling of everyone in the room, but the alliance has already been approved by the rulers. So Alflame says there's a misunderstanding. The Vanquish Empire isn't part of this alliance. The help is personal from him, and the dude laughs at everyone for thinking Vanquish would send forces to Palestine. Julius tells Sigurd to calm down and let Alflame explain before telling him to F off. Then Scarlet puts on her gloves and says it's better to beat the prey from all directions and just gives one to the head of the Vanquish prince, whose head sinks into the floor. Jean from Vanquish is present and says he's the diplomat for when the idiot Alflame messes up. Jean says his nation doesn't have hereditary succession, but rather a system where the throne is taken by whoever fights the best. Because of this, the fight for the throne is always violent. Alflame says if it's a 1v1, he never loses. And he says the king's throne isn't simple enough to conquer alone. With that, Julius understands that with the favor sold to Palestine, Alflame wants them to help him in the fight to conquer the throne of Vanquish. And that's exactly it. But Julius says the enemy force won't be swayed just by him on their side. However, Alflame says he's not their only reinforcement. So a random guy appears and says huge dragons have been spotted in Palestine's sky, estimated to be 1,000 of them. And Alflame says his comrades can relax, that with the help of his celestial order of the Crimson Dragon, 50,000 monsters are nothing. The Palestine soldiers are stunned that the continent's strongest Knight Order would help them. Julius notices Alflame's commitment, but wonders if the strongest order can also fight on the ground. Alflame says they fight day and night against ferocious monsters from across the continent, unlike Palestine, which got complacent because of the barrier's protection. I wouldn't throw those jabs at Julius. Julius says his nation developed the invincible tactic of not creating wars, so they don't need to be the strongest nation. That's why the messengers sent to Lindbergh are sending back responses from the surveillance done on the current situation regarding the nations that declared war on Palestine. Julius expects a response from Alflame, since they went around the north with the purpose of reconnaissance. And the one who talked about this area reconnaissance was Jean, leaving Alflame surprised. He says His Highness the Imbecile was optimistic about the alliance, but it's not easy, so Jean gave the information beforehand. Alflame gets excited and says that makes sense. Scarlet says this is next-level stupidity. Alflame tells everyone that the Crimson Knights found Falconian troops in the northern forest, but they were lightly equipped and seemed to be composed of elves and beastmen. They looked more like reconnaissance troops. For a nation that wants to wage war now, the work is pretty sloppy. And that's all, folks. Julius says Falconia wasn't concerned with expanding its territory. Probably someone from the outside influenced their minds. If that's the case, negotiations will be easy. If Falconia withdraws from the war, everything changes and Eldrin will have to reconsider its plan. So while the battle against the monsters happens, there will be an attempt to negotiate a ceasefire with Falconia. Julius says the problem will be who to assign for the negotiations. Then he gets the idea to send Dios, who is good at infiltrating enemy armies. Julius, sharp as always. Nanika also wants to go, as there might be Beastman friends among them. It's not in his people's nature to want war. Nanika doesn't want anyone to get hurt. Julius declares the meeting over and tells everyone to prepare for their duties. Scarlet leaves the castle all dressed up and sees Nanika and Dios arguing about how they'll get into the Falconia kingdom. They can't agree on the route. Scarlet asks Sigurd how long they've been like this, and Sigurd says since the meeting ended. They're just two kids who don't understand the kingdom's fate depends on them too. Scarlet wants to know if everyone here is going to the battlefield. Sigurd says yes, and that tomorrow they'll meet up with the kingdom's troops that left earlier to prepare for Eldrin's invasion. Scarlet says that when the invasion starts, a lot of blood will be shed in Palestine. Hearing this, Sigurd draws a sword with his soldiers and says he doesn't know what words could comfort the lady, but he swears they knights will protect the kingdom of Palestine at any cost. Scarlet flashes a smile at these words and promises she will also protect this nation with her fists. Sigurd isn't sure he heard that last part right, and Scarlet goes off to hunt monsters. She flies on her Dragon Rex and greets her brother and Julius. Upon landing, the vanquished soldiers ask her to identify herself. Scarlet introduces herself and demands a meeting with His Majesty Alflame. The randoms recognize her as the Hellfire Bride, and Scarlet is about to get pissed, because Alflame shows up calling her love and dear, and even spread the lie that Rex was a gift from him. Scarlet orders her pet to burn Owlflame. But it's no use. Everyone just thinks Lady Scarlet has nerves of steel and knows what she wants. So they burst out laughing. Scarlet doesn't know if she can handle this bunch of idiots. Owlflame says the clowning is over and it's time for battle. He knows Scarlet came here hungry for a fight. So everyone mounts their dragons and Owlflame says the pummeling lady should feel free to commit all the violence she wants. She's aware of that. The quota is 100 monsters each, and things literally heat up as the dragons attack. Scarlet descends and goes to hurt some weird monsters just a little bit. She starts with a spinning kick, hitting all of them and breaks their clubs, pins one to a tree, and says that even as monsters, anyone entering human territory should learn the basics of dance etiquette. So to humiliate them further, Scarlet delivers an elegant dance-like beatdown, so they can be more cultured. You should never offer a closed fist to a maiden, it must be an open hand. Having said that, Scarlet spins one of them around like a lovely flower while hitting the others. She didn't have time to finish the dance, so Scarlet wasn't fully satisfied. Owlflame arrives and says that when people see a monster for the first time, they tremble in fear. But to Scarlet, their appearance might be horrible. But in terms of inner rot, the corrupt, slave-owning nobles of Palestine were much worse. Owlflame is amused by his Hellfire bride. She almost hits the vanquished prince. But then soldiers from the Crimson Dragon Order arrive desperate, reporting to His Highness that a giant boar appeared and they're sure it's the boss. Their friend MIT was captured and they beg Owlflame for help. Scarlet heads over there to get her fill of pork. Arriving, she finds a really ugly big pig with a crown. She thanks it for being born with the sole purpose of getting beaten up by the pummeling lady. The Pig King finds it funny that a human, who's just monster food, talks like that. Scarlet is impressed it speaks human language. She thought pigs only went oink oink. The Pig King says he was reborn thanks to the Pomanism priestess and is now a being superior to an orc. He is the ORC god. Scarlet confirms that this was definitely the work of that pink-haired bitch. The Orc King says humans are on the same level as insects, and dragons who surrender to humans should be treated the same way. He shows them the captured MIT and says he's not a hostage, just as food for later. He says what orcs love to eat most are children and women. They love to bite them while they cry and beg for mercy. The Pig King wants to taste Scarlet right away, but she just hits him in the face with the back of her fist and rips his head off, saying her favorite food is tender pork that's worth beating up. But Lady Van Dimian knows the Orc King isn't defeated yet, so he reveals his head inside his belly. He didn't die today. The orc can move its head anywhere on its body, so Scarlet runs and unleashes a barrage of punches on him. The Orc King says it's useless and wants to throw his acidic pig grease at her, but Rex twists the monster's head, and his deadly grease falls on his own soldiers. With that, the Orc King's skin starts acting strange. Scarlet is happy her close-range punches finally took effect. While she was stalling for time, she twisted her hips to deliver gradual, rapid punches like a piston. She cooks the Pig King from the inside out. Owlflame soldiers are happy with their boss lady. Then, a wind spirit used by Dios tries to communicate with Scarlet, saying a problem has arisen in Falconia and negotiations might not be possible. My dude, Scarlet proves herself once again a genius in battle, and the alliance with Owlflame is working out great. If you enjoyed it and made it this far, leave your like and hit the bell so you don't miss anything. Subscribe and share the video with a friend who wants to see a different anime with a female protagonist to be proud of. Thanks for the constant support, and peace out. Nanika doesn't know how Dios will enter the Great Forest, and the half-elf says that it is just to go with faith and courage that it will work, and the knights mounted on dragons attacking will make things easier. However, Nanika has her doubts regarding the dragon knights, knowing the meaning of strategy, but although they are moving well and the guy called Gene makes super rational decisions, then the break of expectation arrives when a goblin throws a little knife of nothing at Gene that grazes him, and in response Gene summons a Mega Blaster fire arrow and explodes the goblin along with an area that equals a football stadium. Now yes, Dio sees that the strategy went to hell and that it will be impossible to enter the forest of Falconia and negotiate a ceasefire. With Scarlet knowing and understanding the situation, she decides to act and asks them to wait. From the skies, Scarlet sees Owlflame having fun with some monsters, and when he sees her, he stops the fooling around and sets the creatures on fire to farm aura for his beloved. He asks how the battle against the Pig King was, and Scarlet says that it was a good one, and before getting there, she fought against a half-baked Inquisitor of Palmia just to warm up. Scarlet wants to know if Owlflame did not deliver the strategic instructions to his knights. He is clueless, and of course he delivered nothing. Scarlet is nervous already, but Owlflame says that he is chill, and that he will stay as bait and departs with his dragon through the skies. The Scarlet realizes that the guy likes very much to show off, and from on high, Owlflame throws himself and makes his chest plate ignite to the maximum, together with all his body, and falls like a bomb, melting all the monsters and running like Naruto, setting fire on everyone. Scarlet then sends the orders for Nanika and Dios to hurry and enter the Great Forest. They manage to infiltrate, and it lacks little for them to negotiate with Falconia. Nanika asks what kind of plan Dios has to act like a true negotiator. He only says that he has elf blood in his veins, and as soon as it is the time, he will find a little way. Nanika doesn't like that he hides the game like this. Dios seems two-faced, but there's something sincere in him. I feel Nanika says that Scarlet trusted very much in a sacred order and with whom she is very close, she becomes the most gentle person in the world. But Dios broke her trust in the most horrible way. But as she decided to give a second chance, Nanika will also follow these steps. Dios doesn't understand how they can be so good-natured like this. Nanika wants to know whom Dios hates so much. And the half-elf says that all of his family who decided to exile him. But upon meeting Sonia, everything changed, and he advises Nanika that having a soft heart will only make him hurt himself and suffer a lot. That said, the two grab their blades, and it seemed that they're going to fight. But in reality, they join and break the arrows that fly in their direction. Soldiers of Falconia controlled by Theronetsa attack them, and the chief of the elves puts out and removes Theronetsa's spell from everyone present there. Dios recognizes him, and the chief wants to know what the half-elf is doing in the great forest. Nanika says that they arrived as representatives of the kingdom of Palestan to negotiate a ceasefire with Falconia. However, the chief of the elves says that he is not there representing the army, but rather the movement of the monsters, and only went there to rescue his compatriots, revealing that the decision to go to war was totally taken by the Beastmen clans. So it is better for Palestan to negotiate with them. Nanika asks to wait, but the random one stops him. Then Dios uses his wind spirit and says that his mother, the woman whom the chief of the elves always loved, left with Dios the power of the wind spirit. And Dios intends to deliver to the chief this spirit, if he sends the army of Falconia to withdraw. Meanwhile, Scarlet spots that several monsters were gone for good, but Owlflame is lying fallen and injured on the ground. When a monster is about to kill him, Scarlet comes down with everything and smashes its head, puts on her gloves, and punches several monsters in rapid sequence, stacking them into a pile of bodies. Scarlet wants to know how Owlflame's wounds are. He becomes flattered by his lady's concern, and the Princess of Punching says she would do anything to help someone who offered them help. And so her healing magic eases Owlflame's wounds, who stands up and wants to know how his soldiers are. Scarlet says that half passed out due to their wounds and others are seriously injured, but the healers are already treating them properly, so Owlflame can relax. Scarlet admires him for a moment, but the fool had to ruin everything, saying that Scarlet has a lot of love to give. And you, my good one, can give a lot of love too, leaving your like now and subscribing. Thanks, and back to the video. With that, Scarlet is about to give him an extermination glare. At sunset, the randoms of Vanquish announced the leader of executions, who is the bride of the flames of Hell Scarlet. He made 24,000 executions on the battlefield. Scarlet felt those fanboys talking nonsense and already thought that Leo would go crazy with this. A soldier arrives and reports that the army of Falconia is retreating, and Julius says that Dios and Nanika did well indeed, but they cannot lower their guard. Scarlet says that since they resolved the first phase of the plan, relaxing for a few moments is important. Julius comes close to Scarlet and holds her by her shoulders and hugs her, leaving a very romantic atmosphere, with both faces very close. That said, Owlflame presents himself and tells Scarlet that he and his Order of the Crimson Dragon will return to Vanquish. Julius thought he was more worn out, however, thanks to Scarlet's powers, the Prince of Vanquish is at ease. Scarlet is surprised that he traveled all this way just to say goodbye, but that's the thing. Owlflame wants to take her to Vanquish with him, because after what happened today, Palestan will enter war with Eldrin and it will be difficult for the Punching Lady to flee the kingdom. So, Owlflame wants Scarlet to stay with him. However, Lady Vandimian thanks for the offer, but she has a duty to fulfill with a noble of the kingdom of Palestan and cannot simply abandon her people. Owlflame says that Scarlet was not made to be loved by a boring kingdom, because she blossoms like a beautiful flower on the battlefields, dancing in the middle of madness. It would not be nice for Owlflame to see her wither in the kingdom of Palestan. So Julius steps in and says that Owlflame understands nothing about Scarlet. She blossoms anywhere, and the prince would never let her go with someone who fell in love at first sight with her, because Julius has carried feelings for Scarlet for more than 10 years. The Prince of Vanquish, excited, proposes a duel with his new romantic rival to see who will get Scarlet, but Jean gives Owlflame a smack for him to stop talking like that with an allied prince. Scarlet is moved by the beautiful friendship of the people of Vanquish, and Jean apologizes for the nonsense of his prince. Jean pokes Owlflame for him to get up soon, and thus they depart to the skies toward Vanquish. On the way out, Owlflame asks Scarlet not to die, because they will meet again. At night, Leo says that the remaining monsters are being removed by adventurers and reserve soldiers. Moreover, the army of Eldrin on the western border did not perform the attack it had planned, but continues in visual confrontation with the Royal Guard. Apparently, with Eldrin, it won't be possible to solve any conflict through conversation, and Scarlet says that they are actually waiting for Theronetsa to act. Julius says that the sacred weapon that the tramp carries, the one that destroyed the sacred crystal, is a great threat. That said, Dios and Nanika return from Falconia, and the half-elf says he knows where Theronetsa and Palmia are heading. The villains group is going toward the city of Saris Gila, where the western crystal is located. If she manages to destroy one more sacred crystal, more monsters will enter Palestan and things will get ugly. Dios says that someone who does not command on the level of a god cannot use that weapon of hers to the point of destroying another crystal so quickly, so she will need to recharge mana. Therefore, they have about 3 days for that. Scarlet is dying to beat Theronetsa so much that she passes out and then imprison her, but Leo does not agree at all with such a violent method. Julius says that for this mission to capture Theronetsa, everyone present there will go along with Saint Diana and a few more soldiers of the Sacred Order. Speaking of her, Saint Diana is helping the people injured in the battle. So Julius arrives with the group and calls Diana for a conversation. Scarlet reveals that if she goes with them to Saris Gila and uses a relic that the god Cronoa gave, Sonia can recover her blessing of Saint Diana taken by Theronetsa. Diana says, determined, that she will go with them, even if she runs danger. Dios will protect Sonia with everything, and Leo says he will do the same, which leaves Sonia very embarrassed and red hearing this. Julius is alone with Scarlet talking about the war and plans for future events. So Scarlet asks what those feelings were that Julius mentioned earlier. There is a silence, and he says that apple pie with ice cream is very good. Scarlet doesn't understand where this conversation is going. Julius says that vanilla ice cream with an apple pie really makes one want to eat. And when everything is over, they can eat together. Scarlet says that plans like that can bring bad luck, and Julius laughs at the comment. Cut to Theronetsa, who is pissed that her plans did not work. Then the goddess Palmia reveals herself and says that this is what happens when Theronetsa does not follow her instructions to the letter. She spared citizens of Palestine in the monster attack and was merciful, and that's what it led to. Theronetsa says that if she were to finish off anyone who appeared in front of her, even if the kingdom ended up under her control, it would inevitably collapse. Theronetsa wants to be a princess, and she knows Scarlet's group is arriving. Therefore, she will recharge the sacred weapon quickly, because Scarlet and Diana arrive the next day. So Theronetsa will eliminate the two who carry Cronoa's blessing. The goddess Palmia was right in choosing that tramp for this mission. And speaking of her, Theronetsa makes Nanika, who has not completely come out of her blessing, enchant Prince Julius in his sleep. My friend, this ending is crazy. Nanika is still enchanted, and now they got Julius. I hope the prince thought 2 steps ahead and shows us that in the next episode, which I think is the last one. If you enjoyed and stayed until here, leave your like and subscribe to help, my good one. Activate the bell and check the description for more recaps. So thanks for the support, as always, and see ya. My good one, we're on the penultimate EP, and Scarlet showed why she farms so much aura, and maybe there's a betrayal here? If you got curious, stay with me until the end, and let's go to the video. Scarlet's group travels with the Griffins, and Nana goes in puppy form inside the basket like a good little pup, and Sonia is worried about what they will find at their destination, saying that the last time she went to this city, there were many people on the pilgrimage. But because of this war, everyone was evacuated. Dio says that if she's afraid, she can stay at home. However, Saint Diana is not afraid, and even without the saint's power, decided that she will do everything to help. The knights are surprised, and Scarlet proud of her little sister. The team arrives in the desert city where the sacred crystal is. Nanika senses the smell of Theronetsa and of her faithful of Palmia. Then Julius says for them to hurry. However, Nanika says that he and Dios are better to lead the way since they can sense presences. Dios complains a bit, but agrees. Rex the dragon tries to go along, however he does not fit in the cave, and Scarlet tells him to behave outside together with the Griffins. When the Lady of the Punch is going down the stairs, a voice says, "My mistress, be careful." Scarlet thinks it was her imagination playing tricks, but the thing is weird. On the way, Nanika asks everyone to stop, because the guys put traps everywhere, and the Beastman suggests going another way. However, Scarlet wastes no time and goes to solve this issue. She activates the arrow traps and destroys all of them with her breakdance, then punches an Indiana Jones ball, finishes off some venomous snakes, and destroys some tree trunks. Another Tuesday for Scarlet. The members of Palmia think that the little group arrived all busted up and are injured because of the traps. However, Scarlet comes leading the crew and is just stretching calmly. The random do not understand how they are unharmed, and Scarlet says that the toys were good stretching for her. The Palmia guys start a fight due to such insolence from Scarlet. But as usual, she takes down all these ridiculous ones quickly. Now the guys think that it is impossible to challenge this demon, which leaves Scarlet hurt by such words. The only thing that can cure her sadness is punching more suckers that are on her path. That said, old Michelin paralyzes Scarlet with his magic staff. Dios asks the lady to be careful with the old man, and Scarlet says that she does not like expired meat. But Michelin does not fall for the simple provocation. Julius did not foresee that there would be reinforcements of Pominism due to the reactions of the randoms. So Leonardo uses his clairvoyance to inspect the place more and find more enemies. Then he finds Theronetsa, who knows that he is watching her, and cancels his power. Leo falls to the ground and says that all Palmia soldiers are in this hall, and Theronetsa is in front of the sacred crystal, and her sacred relic emanated so much mana that it canceled Leo's power and hurt his I'm making it bleed. And you, my good one, can also emanate your aura by leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks. Julius says that this is not a good moment for this. Saint Diana worries about Leonardo, and now that the Michelin of Palmia knows that this girl is not just any girl, he gets much more excited to fulfill the desires of his goddess Palmia and end everything related to Dianism. However, the Sacred Order will not allow them to touch a finger on Saint Diana. The Palmia woman uses her whip to attack. However, Nanika blocks it by throwing her kunais. Michelin tries to weaken the enemies, but Dio stops him with his sword and says that this power is really annoying to deal with. Therefore, he will finish off the old man soon. However, he breaks the ground and makes Dios retreat. Julius says that Scarlet and he must go on to face the Aranetsa, but Michelin will not let any of that happen and uses his magic on all the soldiers. Scarlet does not move properly. However, she uses wind magic, and Michelin already expected this and says that nothing will work against him. However, Scarlet laughs and says that she was undecided whether she would hit a moribund old man. Then she tests her limits and punches the wind that hits the Inquisitor, who falls stiff on the ground. Scarlet is so broken that she used her fist so that the pressure of the wind would hit Michelin, something she learned from an instructor of the Van Diemen family when she was a child. This Scarlet, there is not human, my good one. She is on another level. Scarlet asks Diana to wait a little longer, that she will recover the blessing from that Aranetsa. The soldiers stay to fight against the faithful of Palmia and Julius, and Scarlet move on and run into one of the top tier of Palmianism. His name is Avelin the Stigma. Scarlet, even seeing him, cannot feel his presence, which is very strange. It can be the power of a magic artifact. The lady wants to immediately sink her fist into the heartthrob's face. But Julius says that he can handle it, because Scarlet needs to focus on the Aranetsa. She understands and follows flying to face the final boss. Julius says that it would have been better if Avelin had not let Scarlet move forward, because when she clashes head-on with Aranetsa, all of Palmia's plans go down the drain. Avelin says that at this moment, Aranetsa has already become the goddess Palmia herself, so there is no way for a woman with a little strength to do anything about it. The crazy guy still dares to say that he and Julius are cut from the same cloth, which disturbs the Prince of Palestan. He does not venerate a goddess that only has a pretty appearance as a quality attribute. Avelin summons his sword from another dimension, and Julius thinks that the individual's presence being so weak is because of this sacred artifact, and Avelin says that because both of them are beautiful, he has everything to do with it. This guy is pretending to be bred to take sausage, praising everything about Julius, and says that the world only needs one beautiful man. Julius has no interest in being the most beautiful man in the world, but he will enjoy giving a lesson to such a presumptuous and crazy guy. Cut to what matters, because Scarlet finds Aranetsa and wants to finish this quickly, and the slut already orders her to kneel. Scarlet advances and attacks, but her punches have no effect on Aranetsa, because according to her, the protagonist will never lose to an evil villain. However, for Scarlet it is good that it does not end quickly, because then she will take out all her hatred and frustration on Aranetsa with her Kaioken increased 10 times. The other soldiers continue fighting, and Leo sets up an entire strategy to not give an opening for the enemy to send Diana straight to death. There is an archer behind who shoots at Sonia, but she is protected by Dios, who says that the knights were supposed to protect Diana, and now he has an arrow in his back. But he pulls it out quickly and swears to protect Saint Diana. Aranetsa accumulated a lot of energy to destroy the sacred crystal. Upon raising this relic, the kingdom of Palestan will find itself in a great dilemma, but Scarlet will see whether this staff or her power is faster. The lady uses the blessing of Cronoa and uses acceleration and dodges Aranetsa's strike, greatly increases her speed and arrives from the side at the pink slut, uses overclock and stops time. There is no barrier that will protect Palmia now, so Scarlet grabs her by the hair from behind and takes her staff away. Thus she can recover the power of Saint Diana, who is healing the soldiers, but at the pace it is going, they will not endure anymore. That said, Michelin paralyzes everyone again, and it seems that everything is over. But the blessing of Cronoa returns right on time, and Saint Diana notices the light and uses her power to create the protection barrier, being very grateful to her big sister. Luckily, there was time, and the counterattack begins. Dios becomes proud of his sister Sonia. The fight is going all out between Julius and Avelin. The prince destroys the ceiling and drops rubble on Avelin, who also keeps fighting, but Julius' skill is greater and pierces Avelin's chest, who falls feeling beautiful. Julius avoided Avelin's vital points and asks why guys so strong fought in such a sloppy way, and Avelin said that he could not hurt Julius because he is important to Palmia. His sword can cut the air, and with that opened a portal that connects to the sanctuary. Thus, the blessing of Aranetsa enters the environment, and Julius puts a cloth so as not to breathe this. However, it is revealed that Nanako was used to reduce Julius' spiritual resistance, which for being royalty has this attribute very high. Now, Julius falls and is affected by Aranetsa's power. That said, Julius was defeated. Scarlet smashes the slut's face into the ground and feels that the blessing of Cronoa returned to Sonia without problems. Now, yes, she can continue the humiliation on Aranetsa, who gets up playing the victim and with her crocodile tears says that she just wanted to be happy. But Scarlet says that a harlot who hurt so many and made so many others suffer is worth nothing. And those tears then are more fake than a one real bill. Scarlet holds her and wants to finish her right away. However, Aranetsa is saved by the prince at the H hour. Aranetsa gets indignant that he almost hit her, and Julius helps her get up. Scarlet is not understanding anything, and Julius, even enchanted, continues being very honest in his words, talking about Aranetsa, that she is fake, slut, and everything else. For this reason, Aranetsa did not want to captivate him, so she grabs her artifact to recharge and leaves Julius to face and defeat Scarlet. Julius draws his sword and tells the Lady of the Punch that she will have to fall. Scarlet tells the slut that she will not hold back because of facing Julius and give her a big punch in the face that makes him fly far away and break everything. Now she will show her total power. My good one, what an insane episode. Powers recovered and crazy fights. The last EP is going to be madness, and hopefully the Aranetsa gets what she deserves. If you liked it, leave your like and subscribe to help. Activate the little bell so you don't miss any video, and check the description for more content. Thanks for the support, as always, and bye.